Well, we are more attached to ourselves than anything in the world. I Let me see if I can make this analogy. Uh, so I discovered over the past 3 weeks about this sextortion thing. You're familiar with the sextortions that's going around in the U.S. and elsewhere around the world. Um, and one of my student, I don't know, was talking to some girl, and the girl was like, "Send me some pictures of yourself." So of course that took place, and and then they try to scam my student for $300, or we'll send this to your family and friends and so on. And it was news to me, and I was like, "What? How are they doing that again? Tell me what happened." And they're like, "Well, they made a collage and blah blah blah." Then CNN this last week actually did an article, and I saved the article, whereas a 17-year-old high school kid took his life um, because of the shame and just the anticipated, you know, that was going to go on. I mean, the mind of the adolescent is going to blow it out of proportion. Very personal type deal. And then the FBI also issues a warning to the public that, hey, this is going around. Y'all need to just chill out with this. So it's been on my mind about how can Buddhism help people about these things that they take so personally. It is so personal. And to my student, and I was like, you do realize that everybody, you do realize that everybody has a penis, right? I try to make comedy out of it so that they can actually get the point that, you know, your breast, your buttocks, whatever body parts that you're sending, everyone has one, and you don't, unless there are very key identifying markers that says, well, this is you. Okay. My point is, why is this connected to PTSD? Because we again, when we look at and slow down the meaning of attachment to ourselves, to what happened to us, to the events, to the people in our lives, we take it so deeply personal. Why me? Why then? Why did they do that to me? I can't believe he or she did that to me. I couldn't believe I'm a victim of this, a victim of being shot, being robbed, being raped, all sorts of abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse, sexual abuse, you name it, across the linear line. Um, so in Buddhism, we are very aware of the me, the my, and the I. As soon as we start using the word me, my, and I, there is that automatic attachment to that particular event that we have recalled in our minds. And basically, it's just a replay over and over and over and over and over and over again. In my younger days, I asserted that, psychological pain, psychological suffering could diminish in a matter of a second if we let go of that attachment. Slowly convincing ourselves that we are a visitor and that we were put in the wrong place at the wrong time. If we found the problem, if we created the problem, or that the problem found us. But starting to just look at it in a different light and moving away from the me, the my, the I, and then realizing the attacker or the person who did harm to us, that they too are suffering. That's why they targeted us. You know, just the many examples that we can think of, like in the case of this extortion case. They're hurting for money. That's why they do it. Why do people scam? Why do people commit fraud? When we look at rape accusers, or people who do that, because they are enslaved to their sensual desire, enslaved to their sensual faculties, and they're just, it's like very animal type behavior, that they're just going with the animal instinct within them. They're enslaved by that. When you look at crimes and across, we if you look closely, if you investigate closely, you see the why. And having the ultimate thing is to have compassion for the person who did wrong to you. That is like one of the biggest thing of forgiving. So yeah, just whenever you're ready to address the PTSD on your own time, whenever you feel like it, in your own privacy. But I can share with you that I did not exempt being a victim myself of things that happened to me, as a victim of crime, as a victim of all sorts of crime, of theft, of abuse, of violence myself. Um, and I had to learn how to work through that, and quite fairly quickly, because it was keeping me from progressing academically, progressing spiritually, and progressing professionally. So I hope that I just wanted to raise the awareness of me, my, and I, the repetitiveness, the perpetual cycle of that. Just in case you weren't aware of that. A lot of people do it just plays in the background, and they're not made aware of it.
I feel like, it's come up in our conversations before, and I think my association would go to something that you've mentioned a few times, the meditation of the non-self. And I think especially with a lot of the content in the CBT book, that there is a lot of that, the separating of thoughts, right, and me, but also like separating the me just from like ruminating and shame, blame, attachment. There's a lot in there that I'm like, oh, this feels like, and now I haven't studied the idea of the non-self, but I've read a little bit about it. You've talked a little bit about it, and it feels like it's moving towards that way. The attachments of these labels that we give ourselves, whether it's a good, quote unquote, good label, or it's a label as like the survivor of X, and so, it's just something that I've been thinking more about, and like seeing come up for me in some of my thoughts, or like even, when I sleep, I have a lot of sleep disturbance with what I'm assuming is because of the PTSD. So like, I'll wake, I guess it's in between a wake and a sleep state where I think I see something. And as I'm seeing this thing, which is generally something scary, like I'll be waking up. So it's still real for a moment until either I'm able to see that nothing is there, or, my husband is like, hey, everything's fine, nothing's there, you're sleeping, and I'm assuming that that is connected to unresolved trauma. Even though what I'm like seeing in the moment may not be anything that like, has happened necessarily. But, I remember like after my grandmother passed away, who was like a mother to me, like within the night that she passed away, or a couple days later, I had seen an image, and it was like, because of the loss of her, I think that's what had triggered that. And it was a really terrifying experience. So just explaining for you a little bit more of like, in little ways, how it'll come up, and I'm like, I wonder if it is, residual trauma.
Yeah. It's amazing the things that I had to let go to proceed on forward, to make, and not only that, just to make myself available and to hold the pain and suffering of humanity, on top of things that I moved past myself, and quite fairly quickly. I mean, I can't imagine if I hit the rewind button, and and everyone dwells on the past differently. Everyone was wired differently. based on causes and conditions growing up, and based upon the intensity of that pain and how that pain was inflicted based on that event. So it varies in gradient and intensity. Uh, yeah, it's something that the start of self-determination is just the start of willing yourself, using willpower, that I'm using your age to propel you to move forward, to push you forward. Is that I am 30, 40, 50, 60 years old now, and I can't be doing this anymore. I need to let go. I need to move forward. Because anything that causes you stress is not a good thing. As a matter of fact, I just saw this documentary on stress, and this is all the things that we studied repeated over again in a documentary. Just and I'm going to make all my students hear it and watch it again, just so that they are convinced that anything that causes us stress, the past, the future, we must learn to let go quickly, because of the neuroinflammation and all of the adverse health, the gastrointestinal issues. That alone is compelling to make you let go, to just tell yourself, if you were wise, you would learn to let go quickly, very quickly. And what is worth hanging on to, and why are we hanging on to them? Having a very honest conversation about that, you know. Um, but if it no longer serves us and is no longer pursuant to our survival, then we must really consider letting it go. And just meditating on the word: in breath let, out breath go. In breath let, out breath go. Eventually you start rewiring the neuroplasticity, neurogenesis, to convince yourself that it's okay to let go, it's safe to let go, versus hanging on to something. When we hang on to it, we feel the weight every day. And every day when we hang on to it, it just compounds the weight. If someone was to draw art, then they would, I guess it's like dragging this wheelbarrow, and there's more rocks on the wheelbarrow, or the backpack getting bigger, or so on. Yeah, that's yeah, PTSD is one hell of a thing, and there's a lot of science behind it, you know. And reading a lot of books on PTSD, there's constant groundbreaking research on it, and constant groundbreaking treatment, and yeah, to help you process it. So if it troubles you, start target specific on PTSD and all the books on it. It's been a while since I did any target specific on PTSD for any of my students, but if it comes, I should revisit my own books. Actually, I have a lot of books on it. But good. I mean, very courageous of you to bring it up to the surface. You know, it's nobody wants to carry this thing until you're 70. That's that's a lot of back pain. Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why it comes up in these little ways, like even when I sleep, because it's trying to tell me, like, pay attention to this. So, I mean, it's at a point where it's like, am I listening? So, I don't know. I think there's a connection there, and where I'm at with like CBT, I think some of the connections I was seeing was with a chapter that I'm few of the chapters, but one chapter that I'll talk about is with it was more centered around, like, I would say, like, clinically speaking, it broke down a little bit more about like even catastrophic thinking in a minute form can be a commotion. Attention back to being like, see, I knew that like this was gonna happen, and that I should have worried, and I should have done this. And like health anxiety, I think that one probably comes up the most, where like something little comes up with my dog, and I'm like, oh my God, like I have to become an expert and go to Google and worry myself even more.
Health anxiety. I need to do a TikTok on that. I forgot all about that. That's a big one.
Yeah. Or something like with my husband, something comes up with his health, and I think I pay more attention to it than him,
Right.
and I mean, he has his own things about ignoring certain stuff, but like the unnecessary worry that I'll get, and I think it's also going into maybe attachment, the attachment that I have with my dog, or the attachment that I have with my husband, and the fear of losing one of them.
Yeah. Well, you want me to rain on your parade?
Sure. I'm not here for you to confirm what I think is good. Go ahead.
Buddhism tends, in order for us to help you to be happy, we tend to rain on your parade first. Before we teach you how to be happy, we rain on everybody's parade. The truth is that one should never be attached to anything and anything. Anyone and anything that lives or breathes, just because they're going to die. And they can die any moment. A study of biology, what we know about it. And so that's another that's death meditation. But yeah, just be aware of that. That it just like that. People may not wake up, or your dog may not wake up, or but seeing death in them every day will help you back up a little bit from the attachment. Feeding the attachment is thinking that, yeah, I don't want certain things to happen to them, and so on and so on. So, but yeah, it's a good thing that you have identified that, just because a lot of people have attachment to their husband and wife, and sometimes we don't really wake up that morning, and then they're in a world of hurt and pain. And if depending on the intensity of your attachment, you also die too from the broken heart thing, which I'm pretty sure I watched that unfold within a week from this lady and her husband that passed away. So now I have a dog too, and when I see Bailey, I realize 13 years of dog years and stuff like that. But I mean, she can just die any moment. So what's and the teachings of karma and attachment goes hand in hand, and we realize that they are subject to their own karma. And if karma wants to yank you or anybody, it will yank you, no matter how many B12 shots you got, how many immunization you got. If karma wants you, it will find you in your home, and it will yank you. It's very comforting internalizing the teachings of karma, because so then a lot of people buy like a bulletproof vest and a gun, and they think that I can control all things in my life and narrow down the factors and so on. No, not quite. Not quite. So they really fool themselves into believing that.
I think where I'm at currently with, being a student of yours, death meditation would be advanced for me.
Yeah.
Especially with,
I know,
unresolved, like, working through of trauma. Not that I won't get there, but I think as of now, like, I can confidently say that that's advanced for me. But I wonder, like, a step before that, about, the impermanence and that things are subject to change. Like, is there a specific meditation around that might be closer to where I can start?
to change. Repeat that statement. The question of
Oh,
which one?
that things are subject to change.
Well, we first have to find examples of change in nature. So when a light form of meditation would be going out, underneath a tree and sit there and observe Mother Nature and see the leaves falling from the tree, looking at the leaves on the ground. Your high school, your middle school, where did you grow up in your city where you are now?
The same city, no, but it's very close to where I am.
If you ever go back, have you ever revisited your all of the old places where you used to be and stuff like that?
I mean, I drove by.
Yeah. Have you observed changes?
Yeah.
How does it make you feel?
I mean, like high school for me was really great, so I felt nostalgic just because I have an attachment, right, of like a nice high school experience. I mean, I guess I didn't feel sad about the changes that I seen. I just felt kind of like, oh, I don't know, maybe I felt a little bit of loss for it changing. I'd have to drive by again and think about that.
Have you had a school that no longer existed where it used to be?
No.
Yeah, no. Think of a place that you like that's not there anymore, a business or something like that.
Okay. I can think of a dance studio that burned down. Sure.
And how did you felt when you saw witness that?
Oh, I felt lost.
Hmm.
Grief.
Anything that is of material that you used to have and is no longer here, or is changed or has changed, a teddy bear, a phone, a car that slowly started to decay in its nature.
Yeah, there was a car.
Hmm. So you use stuff like that and you meditate on that and you convince yourself that these things are subject to change and look and well, even before all of that, our old practices to see your body and your mind. Our religious practices, our body and our mind, and to see the impermanence nature, the changing nature within us. Like skin. Like, was my skin like this before, or is my hair was it like this before? The wrinkles have like this before, or how have my body changed? And then when we first see the evidence within our bodies, our mind, our bodies, our memory, then we can extend out into things in society and connect to things that are fleeting in nature. For me, Riviera Middle School was, yeah, I drove by one time and they tore down Riviera Middle School where I had a lot of memories, and I was just like, and you also see it in people, your friends, how they are different now than versus before. Mentality, nature, style, character, disposition, their outlook on life, their, where they're going. So you use all of that to help you meditate on change, which is suffering, which is dukkha, the meditation on dukkha, the meditation on things that are subject to change. You go out to the ocean, you can look at the ocean and you realize all the waves are changing. It's a impossible thing to see two waves that are exactly identical in symmetry and geometry. The wind that blows when you close your eyes and you're in nature, you hear different wind, different sound, you see just all sorts of changes in phenomenon. And then slowly you convince yourself that, wow, when students tell me, when I ask them the question of, have you seen impermanence? Have you seen change? And they're like, yes. And I was like, really? Tell me, what have you seen that convinced you of such change in life and the true nature of reality of change? And they're like, huh? With a big question mark on their forehead. So a lot of students, Again, I don't even know why they ask certain questions that are so advanced when these are some of the most basic ones in Buddhism that you must internalize. Keyword internalize, fully convinced in your veins. Yeah, and it is the same reason why people are asked, "Dear Venerable, you're very good looking. Are you male?" To the no. Again, the three marks of existence. She ain't gonna last forever. She's not always satisfying, and rarely is she under my control. But those three convictions, the three marks of existence, has run into my veins, and is always constantly working as the operating system, as the operating software in a monk's life, so that he does not get attached, so that it does not steer him the wrong way towards, steers him away from enlightenment, away from nirvana. Therefore, that is how you meditate on change.
Yeah, I guess it was in 2021, last year. Yeah, I guess it was last year when I got my autoimmune disorder, and now I also have arthritis in one of one of my big toes, which is really painful. And I laugh because I'm like, I'm not old, but I have arthritis in this toe, and it's like walking is moving, right? Is such a fundamental part of life all day that I'm reminded of it all day. And this is something that it's like, when you're talking about observing change and seeing that, like, this body is not going to last forever. This body will continue to change and decay and fail me in a lot of ways.
Yes. Well, and then the other thing
Is that your pulse arrest?
is what?
Is that your ankle monitor?
I know this is it's actually it's a power bank.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, these laptops are run by a power bank, and then I actually charge them by solar power so that I don't leave carbon footprints behind. Yeah. So
it was a bad joke that I made,
so 0%. When it reaches 30%, it will beep, and then 20%, and then 10%, it will beep. So I did beep 3 times ever since we started talking. Anyways, then there are people who actually beat themselves up every time when the existence of such pain, like arthritis, because it comes, or gout, arthritis, gout, or shingles, when it, or even herpes, genital herpes, just conditions, just diseases that attacks whenever it wants to attack. And then as it attacks, people are like, I can't believe this is happening again. I cannot believe this is happening to me. Notice the personalization thing. And then now we have suffering on top of pain. We have suffering on top of suffering, versus seeing the true nature of reality of pain, which is, changing the perspective of, isn't that the true nature of reality of this body, it to produce pain, to change, that I'm subject to old age, disease, decay, and subsequent death. So you can bring yourself a lot of comfort, redirecting your mind, so I play extreme sports on the weekend, and there were times where I pulled my back. There was it 2 years ago that I pulled my back, not once but 3 times in 1 year, that left me quite disabling. I was like 90 years old. I was out, and there's live videos of me holding two two canes, trying to like walk like chopsticks, trying to give a teaching. There was one point where I couldn't walk up the stairs. I had to eat dinner on the floor, on the ground with the ants. That's how much in pain I was. But then I used the same training that they gave us, which is insight meditation, and not to be attached on, and to see the true. I mean, number one, I did it to myself, and number two, seeing the true nature of this body is that this is what it has to do. And pain is a good thing, because pain tells you, listen, don't aggravate this particular part of your body right now, because it's trying to heal. So changing our understanding and perspective on why we have pain, particularly in that particular area, understanding pain to its root, gives insight so that we don't blame ourselves. And so people are so hard on themselves because they don't internalize and understand what it is that I just told you. But that's another advanced teaching on insight meditation to help with physical pain.
So I was in the CBT book for 11, 12, and 13. And I think 11 and 12 both were bringing up the concept of, everything is subject to change, impermanence, and it was reminding me too of the serenity prayer, which is something that I don't practice, but it's something that, I know about and people in the AA, say every time they get together. But like, especially with CBT, there's stress on what can you control, what is out of your control, and what tweaks or adjustments do you need to make for things that you may be trying to control too much that are causing suffering. So if we were to tweak the serenity prayer a little bit, it would not only be like accept the things I can change, but it would be like just maybe accept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, like a theme that you've brought up, like in our discussions and probably in other teachings that you've had, is like letting go and the holding on to things.
Well, it's this little phrase I'm going to tell you is pretty easy. It is what it is. It can't be what it ain't. So why are we hanging on to something where the resistance is the opposite of acceptance? Is that we want it to be something different than what it actually really is. And when we see that it is what it is, it can't be what it ain't, we just laugh at it. We're like, silly me, I can't believe that. I'm actually trying to manipulate and change something that cannot be changed at this moment, at this time. A lot of people, you know what I mean? I like this one 18-year-old girl that broke first love with her boyfriend, and I want him to come back. I want, again, just that the resistance to what it actually really is that he right now don't want you back, darling, not at this time. So right now, work on yourself and blah blah blah. She just could not bear to hear those words, because I don't, wanting something and not getting it is suffering, and getting something that you don't want is suffering. Said the Buddha. And as fast as we can accept that, as faster you can achieve peace.
Probably in maybe 15 minutes, I'm not going to have privacy anymore, so I'll probably need to end our teaching and our discussion. So I just wanted to put that out there. And
do you if you feel like not sufficient time, we can also continue tomorrow too, if you have time tomorrow.
I might, yeah. I might take you up on that. I didn't know that was an option for you, just because
it's an option for any of you at any time. We can talk daily. So this is the best monk the world has ever seen. Being a lazy monk is an easy thing.
The laziness, though, is like, it comes up so much, I think, with everything of, okay, why don't we speak 5 languages? Oh, maybe because we're lazy. Why haven't I traveled, to all the continents? Maybe because I'm lazy. So I don't know, like, you've brought that up a few times, and I'm like, oh, am I not doing this, whatever, X, Y, Z, because I'm lazy?
You have to differentiate between fear and laziness. Laziness is, I'm comfortable where I'm at, and I'm okay not seeing things, even though I want to. I'm just I'm comfy here, and I feel safe here. And there's that fear of traveling, fear of flying, fear of embracing something new, fear of seeing things. So one has to look at fear and laziness and decipher the difference between the two.
I was going to share something positive with you that happened that I had already shared with you that was going on. Remember the test? So I took the test last Saturday and we had modified my expectations through talking, but also determined that I was taking the test just to keep my application open. So letting go of the like kind of hope that it was going to pass and just be like, I'm just taking it to take it. And this was my third time taking it. And this time, going in, I felt so calm during the test and had already told myself, like, pretty much expect to be disappointed and just still do your best, right? Because it's still knowledge for like, because I'll get a breakdown of the test, my percentages in each category. And I guess it's supposed to be like, where should you study more next time? So, anyways, I took the test and I didn't take a whole time. So, I think the other 2 times I took it, I felt like I needed every single minute of the 4 hours. And this time, I think I had like 40 minutes left. I even went back and had checked some questions that like I flagged for review. And then I was just like, okay, I've done my best, submit. And I didn't pass again. But the good news is that I am able to sit for that test without having crippling anxiety, without reading a question over and over, thinking that like, oh my gosh, I don't want to miss anything, and without really studying this time because I had already known, like, I'm just taking it because of the time crunch that I'm in. What I know already, I know. Just that was my little, like, kind of bright spot of.
Did you get results back from the test?
I did. You get it immediately.
So you passed?
I did not pass.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just saying.
I see.
The positive thing is that I didn't take every single minute and have the crippling anxiety. And like I'm able to laugh here now and be like, I didn't pass, like whereas before it was like the first 2 times I would really beat myself up that I didn't pass. Now it's like, okay, it's kind of funny, but like now I know that I'm able to sit there and not feel like I'm out of control.
Yeah.
So
maybe not at this time. Maybe once everything, all the ducks fall in one row, and we take it again, and we can approach it more effectively than what we're trying to juggle everything with right now. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you didn't suffer through the process, and that's what matters in life. That's what it is in life, is that you enjoy the journey, enjoy the journey throughout the steps of the way. And when you don't, when you can't get what you really want, sometimes it can be a stroke of good luck, said the Buddha.
I know that's one that people tend to see in hindsight, not in the moment, though, right?
Yeah, because they want it so bad, and they fall into fantasy mode about, if I get it, this is all the job security and the backup plan and all this other stuff. They again, it's desire. The excessive desire causes suffering, which is the second noble truth. So, did you do any additional research on things that we have discussed throughout this week besides CBT?
We did not discuss the non-self. That was something that I had done independently. Could I speak a little bit about that?
Sure. Whatever that you found this week.
So it was from Access to Insight. And what struck me was the relationship with what Buddha said about the 4 types of vessels, clay vessels. So the first vessel being one with holes at the bottom, so you pour in water and it holds nothing. The second being with cracks, so it seeps out slowly over time. The third, it's too full, so it can't actually, kind of in the way of like, you can't continue to grow, you can't change, you can't replace, it's just too full. And the fourth, I forget what the fourth was actually, now that we're talking about, but I guess the fourth would have been the ideal of like flexible. Maybe you can remind me what the fourth is. I felt like I had it right before I started.
I don't even remember it. So there's a lot of teachings where I have to reopen it again. 84,000 teachings. No way. Some monks can remember it. This is not one of them.
Okay, the fourth, I guess, is just completely empty. It says here, hopefully we are the fourth kind, the empty vessels without any holes or cracks, completely empty.
Mm. What does that mean to you?
To have flexible insight of, like, to not always believe my thoughts that they're right, to question, I think to constantly like live the questions that I have, you know, the questions of like, is this serving me? Is this helping me on my spiritual journey? Am I resistant to something because I'm like thinking that I know it all? I guess it's just more like when I feel resistance to something, why do I have that resistance? Is it because I think I know better? And generally we don't.
A little bit of knowledge can be dangerous.
Yeah.
I don't know anything, actually. Did you know that? My attitude towards education is that number one, we are continuously learning. And number two, when the student is speaking, when the student is speaking, they become the teacher, and I'm actually the student. And when I don't know something, I say I don't know anything. And every time when I prostrate in front of the Buddha and my head hits the floor, what I'm actually saying is I don't know Jack. I may know Tom, but right now I don't know Jack. I get 84,000 teachings. One cannot know it all. It's really difficult to grasp it all. Engaged now in the art of Buddhist psychotherapy, people's stories are unique, ever-changing, poses challenges. So, even if I have 3 PhDs sitting here, I would still adopt the attitude that I don't know nothing. And that's keeping that open, keeping an open mind as such, opens up all sorts of learning opportunities for us in life. And it is exactly what makes us beautiful and relatable and approachable in conversations. Instead of, how are you? I'm Dr. Chidao, PhD, PhD again. And then when we just speak on subjects that we know we're an expert of, control over a body of knowledge, of connectedness to people. And sometimes I laugh at myself for not knowing certain basic things. Sometimes I skip a word while chanting some of the most common chants that we have. I mean, it's just all sorts of things. My ADHD sometimes jumps into the way, and I just laugh at them. So I'm just laughing at yourself sometimes for mistakes and stuff that we don't know and don't remember. So I'm just laughing at yourself sometimes for mistakes and stuff that we don't know and don't remember. Is part of being human. There's the psychology of learning and the psychology of unlearning what we've learned and continuously, wanting to learn new things from other people.
Yeah. So empty vessel in this would be like not having those attachments to self, to knowledge, to title, you know.
Just chill. What the Buddha was trying to say is just chill. Just go with the flow, dude. Don't cling on to things. Don't, you know, catch yourself when all these things are unfolding. Mindfulness is catching as when you feel pressure to do something, pressure to be something, pressure to do something, be something, say something. That's where you start catching yourself. You realize, uh-oh, something foolish going to happen here shortly, because you're already generating that thought, what you're about to say, think, feel, and do. And basically, the Buddha just says, you know, just slow down a little bit, relax, just process what's happening. Just look at your experience right now. What, you know, is it, if you follow the Noble Eightfold Path, you will have a wonderful, beautiful vessel. Look at the Noble Eightfold Path, the eight noble things you do and practice every day. You will never get yourself in trouble. You will never get, yeah, you just never get yourself in trouble. It will propel you towards the path of liberation, peace, contentment, happiness, and freedom. Simply put, it's amazing that he already has a guideline for us, has a list for us, and all we got to do is just follow the darn thing and stop arguing. Stop arguing with ourselves and renounce and just give up. And again, I don't know Jack. I know Tom very well, but I don't know Jack. Yeah.
Did you get a chance to check out that documentary? The, what is it called? The Stutz Method.
Yeah, I looked at all of it, and he's the same way as me. Foul mouth, just like me. I love it. And he identifies the ego. He's very much like me, except instead of the X, I call it the lawyer. When you're siding with the lawyer in your head.
That's what I was thinking of when I watched it. I was like, oh, this sounds like the lawyer that you talk about.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing to see that. You know, like I've been using his methods all along without having ever seen him, having ever met him, and he's been a psychiatrist for a very long time. So yeah, I mean that's what I have been delivering to the people, you know, set them straight in the most kindful and mindful way, but sometimes at a very real level, so that they knock it off. You know, just wake up. You know, stop. You're still asleep. Wake up. My job is to wake people up. And you know, he is a psychiatrist, so he's basically God in his industry and occupation, rightfully so. And many therapists would not dare to try certain methods like that because they are afraid they might be sued. But the fact that I wear these robes exempt me from a lot of things, and if I get sued, they would get three pair of robes. I don't have much to get sued for. I have nothing to lose, so therefore I'm able to liberally practice the psychotherapy world a little bit more loosely, but however with surgical precision and certainty that it is going to be therapeutic for that individual using the best available science to meet them where they're at. But yeah, it was amazing that you shared that. That's pretty awesome. I'm gonna probably buy the darn thing and watch the whole thing. But I already, you know, just some of these methods, and I was just like, ah, look at that. This is like basically watching me unfold, but just in different arena. But yeah.
Yeah. I think one thing that he does, just from my experience working in mental health, that has helped people he's worked with, is he actually takes like a kind of like a little index card and draw out the idea that he's talking about with them, and they take home with them. And there's something in psychotherapy called like the transitional object, and it's kind of like, how do you take a piece of your therapist or maybe your teacher in this relationship and integrate it. And with him, he has Parkinson's, so his handwriting also is like very shaky, and so it's not just a drawing on an index card that he's giving you, it's a shaky drawing, that like he only could do. And I know there's ways that you sit with your students and give them things both physically and that aren't physically like Sunday service and other things that we don't see online. But like, I think there was also a power to what he's doing there, and also his kind of genuine, almost radically genuine way of, and maybe this was all Hollywood, I don't know.
No, I don't think that it was Hollywood. I mean, given his age and the way how he uses the F word, kind of like me. And there was one point there he says, shut up, don't argue with me, just do what I'm telling you to do, just do what I say. So he's taking direct control, so that he shuts down the lawyer. He's becoming a judge right there in that moment. He's not going to let the lawyer speak. So it's exactly what I do to my students. I'm like, do not argue with the Buddha. Sit your ass down, be quiet, focus on your breath, don't ask any questions. And they're like, oh. I don't do it quite like that, but there are times where, just the variety, the vicissitudes of students, the conglomerate of students, sometimes you have to pinpoint which one is most rowdy and which one is just all constantly giving excuses and not sitting still. So it's taming that people that needs to be tamed. The Buddha taught us. But yeah, it's he's very direct. I have a lot of respect for him, and no doubt he's one of the most enlightened individuals in our modern society. And he may not fit the same description of enlightenment in Buddhism, but in regards to academic and again a god of psychotherapy, he would probably fit the criteria and elements of that. It's a rare thing to find therapists like that, you know. And quite frankly, he has no patience for foolishness after a 40 something years of that. I mean, look, I've been doing this for just 6-7 years, but I have like 15 years of social work, and I just don't put up with BS anymore with certain people, which is all they think they can fool you. They really think that they can fool you. Okay.
I think his directive way is what most people need. And that's not always therapy.
Yeah, that's true. But they also have to be prepared. He has to realize if they are prepared for it also, which is a task that we have to meet them where they're at. You can't just be like that all the time to everybody and not screen them. I mean, it could be suicidal. You get someone who is suicidal and you do that to them, and you guarantee they're going to jump off the Brooklyn Bridge. Yeah. You have to, there's a certain, you have to assess them very skillfully, extremely skillfully, to meet them where they're at, and be careful of the risk of feeding the homicidal ideation and feeding the suicidal ideation. You don't want to contribute to that. And then if go back and they tell their family and their family knows about it, and that's the big lawsuit. So. Yeah, we had to bring them in so that they don't freeze to death here in Florida.
Oh.
It's like 30. It's gonna be 30 degrees tonight here in Florida.
Oh my gosh, it's cold.
Yeah. Once you graduate my program, I will teach you to be the best psychotherapist the world has ever seen. And slowly, as you observe me and my modalities and the way how I teach and the way how I fix people and the way how I fix just problems, hopefully you start adopting somewhat similar same methods, and this is going to be the new thing nowadays, the no nonsense approach versus the traditional type, which is, I can't even tell you how many reports I get from bad therapists that literally feeds the sessions going and not get to the root cause of the problem.
I mean, it keeps them in a job. Those are therapists who don't want people to become better.
I've been promoted by, APA, not like the APA, but there was a APA actually, American Islander Pacific Asian Psychological Association. The president featured me on their thing. So I have to be careful, but I mean, as much as I really want to straighten out psychotherapists in the U.S., I don't want to be like seen as someone who is too strong about that subject. And Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of improvements in all areas and occupations, from policing to psychotherapists and doctors. But if I could seize the opportunity to counsel one and the emerging ones, that is, forthcoming in our society, in our generation, and to cultivate him to be the best psychotherapist United States has ever seen, yeah, I don't mind it at all. And then, you know, in private sessions, if you share with me what you're working with clinically, and if I give you my 2 cents, and if you consider it, maybe you're like, oh, okay, because it's very frustrating, with certain clients with all different ages. It depends on what age that you're serving. So it can really just like a tornado in your head trying to figure out, trying to, consult with your supervisors. Like, I don't know how to deal with, what would Chi Dao do in this moment? you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing is that they respect me more than the therapist, because of this color. So a lot of them wouldn't dare to, this tames their ego automatically. Just the visibility and the presenting of this, it's no different than sitting with a priest or a bishop or a cardinal. You're there to seek advice, and you would just shut up and just wait for him to tell you what God would want you to do in this moment. You wouldn't go in and see a priest and be like, Father, I think what you're telling me is wrong. Don't forget that the priest also went to seminary school for like 7 years and has a master's in divinity. So, you know, some people just forget. But as a therapist, it's weird. Some of them just like to just argue with you. It's hard to even tame them because you're on a different seat in a different chair. Um, and if you have your own private practice, it's even harder. The risk of losing them and losing the whole thing, and blaming yourself that they could get worse. I mean, this is a whole shebang on that. But that book will be coming out after this book. This book needs to be done first before I write books on Buddhist psychotherapy. It'll be a manual for you guys, probably like this thick. The clinical examples of this thick, bigger than the DSM-5 TR.
Well, I am going to say that I need to go.
Yes.
So thank you.
Yes.
And we will talk soon.
Yes. Okay, well, carry on, and just let me know when the next time you'd like to reconvene. If not next week, but I am available tomorrow. I don't. Christmas is just another day, so I'll be teaching on Christmas Day actually. So,
At the center.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll be merging Christianity and Buddhism together. So I need to prepare for that talk. I don't prepare for any of my talks. Most of my talk I don't really prepare. 99% I don't prepare for them. But maybe this time around I need to be a little bit more on point, bridging the two together. Okay. Well, you have a good night.
Thank you. You too.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, so I apologize I was not able to entertain some of these questions on here, but you all can direct these questions or to my inbox on Instagram, or if you get a kick out of tonight's talk, you can go to my YouTube. There's plenty of one-on-one sessions. So I am going to take a break for a second. Right now it's Florida and it's going to be 30 degrees tonight. And most of these questions I'm glancing over right now can be addressed. You all will find your answers on my YouTube, Tridao Monk, Tridao Monk, Tridao Monk on YouTube. There was something that I wanted to. Oh yeah, that thing. Yeah, I keep on promising this other talk, and I've been neglecting it over the past couple of days. So I will. Let me get a drink of water and then reappear again in like 20 minutes. Let's do that. So 15, 20 minutes. Yeah, this is a lot of things is heavy on my mind with certain talks, and because it touches a lot of our rules and regulations as a monk. So did someone put, wow, Christmas is just another day for you? Yeah, it is. It's no biggie, you know. Last time I celebrated my birthday was I was 23. I'm 35 now, so it's not that biggie. Again, it's just I have a lot of competing priorities, so I don't have the opportunity to sit there and you know, well, actually, I did. I was gonna say I don't have time to be Santa Claus, but I was just Santa Claus like an hour ago. So you missed that TikTok. it's a very it's a very entertaining TikTok over the past couple hours that I published some videos on there for Christmas. Um, uh, but it's a very jubilant and happy Christmas so far for me. Watching my students come back from the military, and some students are just very on point with keeping the precepts, studying, and keeping to themselves, not getting into trouble, and following through with my program. Just a couple hours ago, I put money in an envelope and I gave them their Christmas gift from me. I basically drained my bank account just because they were just so duly deserving students. But anyways, yeah, I got some deep talks coming up, and again on Sunday I need to bridge Christianity and Buddhism together in a this is a very secular, this is becoming a very dangerously secular world. And I just wanted to take that opportunity on Christmas Day to bridge the two together. Some talks are easy for me, and some talks just weighs a little bit heavy when you're in my position, just trying to repair our world as much as possible. But anyway, y'all don't need to hear me complaining. Anyways, so hopefully I can reconvene in the next 15 minutes. But thank you all for joining. Okay.